Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name's Mitchell Pattinson, and as always, I'm joined by Ethan Daffy. And my voice, don't know about you, Daffy, but my voice is a little bit croaky just because I was obviously yelling quite a lot in our draw against the Richmond Tigers. So obviously the final scores were 58 all. Quite odd saying that. The last time the Carlton have had a draw was 2014, and I think it was the final round against Essendon. So quite unbelievable. But how are you, mate, after that draw?
Fuck, sorry for dropping the F-bomb for my first word of the episode. But, what can you say? It was a really, there was no flow. It was there during the game. I just don't think we really had it. I don't reckon we had a 5-minute patch.
No.
Honestly, I don't think either team really did. I thought, Richmond were on top in that first quarter, but we did well to really hold it off, as like a good team does. But yeah, man, what can you say? A draw, at least we haven't lost, I guess. That could have been all hell would have broke loose on social media if we lost that game. But yeah, really frustrating. We really should have won that game. We just butchered so many chances in the last quarter. We just needed one more goal, one more point, really, didn't we? So, what can you say, mate? Really frustrating, especially first game of the year. Like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. And that's what I'm kind of saying it, where it's kind of a little bit unfortunate on the AFL. Like, I think they kind of would have liked it because of the drama of the whole game. But what a shit fucking game of football for round one. And I'll say this right now, the ground didn't look too good, did it? The MCG turf, of course, a lot of speculation and stuff about it. You can't really blame the turf, but it didn't look too good. So, but I think it kind of worked out it didn't on the eye, it didn't look too good, but I don't think it really had much of an impact on the game. But, yeah, as you said, just a shit game of football. And I just think other than that, it's just the brand, and especially with the kind of both teams, I think we're both defensively quite solid, but other than that, our attacking was just absolutely putrid. But kind of more towards your initial thoughts on the actual game. Was there kind of any stars for you? Obviously, we'll get into our best player later on, but was there any standouts, any players that you were impressed by, and maybe a change of position? What do you think?
Yeah. For me, obviously, you always have your individuals that stand out. There just wasn't enough individuals standing out tonight. We just weren't a collective. But for mine, Lewis Young was enormous. He just come off a 3-year contract extension, and he's worth every penny because he was phenomenal tonight. And he resorted to taking a mark tonight. Like last year, you see the development though. Like he was more of a double fister last year. But when he's taking more marks, we get more possession of the ball. So he was enormous. Weeder was fantastic. I know Lynch kicked 4, but geez, he was pretty good on him all night. Some of his, Lynch got a few, obviously the last goal, and then obviously that one where it came off his face and then he marked it, which was just utter rubbish. But those two were fantastic. I thought our back six were good, but those two were the standouts for me. And in midfield, I thought Georgie Hewitt was enormous. He had 21 at halftime, I think. He just really is just calm, isn't he, around the contest. And I think he really needed a Walsh around him tonight just to get it out to him. He needs some more runners throughout the mid, which looked really slow and stagnant in the midfield, which really cost us. And for mine, I thought, I know he only kicked 1 goal, but I thought Harry was fantastic tonight. I know he missed those 2 shots, which is, you can't be doing that. You just cannot be doing that. You can't be missing it. Both of them, you've got to kick in at least one of them. But he took 12, 13 marks. So that's really what you asked for.
Yeah.
Out of him. He should have been used more, really. Especially in that last 5 minutes or so. He's one of those guys that can really hold up the play and get more players ahead of the ball if he takes a big mark. 80 out, 70 out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was great. And yeah, other than that, man, it wasn't really anyone else.
And I think one of the standouts there, as you just said, was probably George Stewart for mine. Just shows his impact, and we kind of spoke about it a lot through the preseason episodes and also in the practice matches. But He was just fantastic tonight. I mean, I texted you at halftime just saying like he was probably the only guy that really was showing up for his side, other than maybe like a Charlie Kerner or Harry Mackay, but just there are too many passengers through that midfield.
Yes.
And one of those guys, and I hate to say it, Paddy Chris wasn't too good tonight. For a captain who has to lead from the front, and you kind of look around and kind of see George Hewitt really going in under the footy to under the packs to get the footy out. Why isn't Cripper doing that? And Cripps still finished off with his 25 touches, so you can't really be too disappointed with Cripper. I think his impact just wasn't there. And also Sam Doherty, of course, finished with his 25 disposals, but also Matt Kennedy wasn't seeing too much. Adam Chera, not seeing too much at all. It's just kind of the players that kind of through last year, we were kind of really impressed by these players. Matt Kennedy, especially, I think that he was probably one of those standouts last year, but not seeing much tonight at all. And as I just said, I think George Hewitt is by far a most valuable player. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I mean he finished with 28 touches, and who was the second best behind Tim Taranto. But other than that, we were just smashing in the midfield. Just Taranto had too many touches. Prestia had too many touches. Before we touch on that, let's move on to the debut players. Obviously, Lockie Cowan was subbed off 3/4 time. I think it was kind of more just because we just need some run with Lockie O'Brien. But Ollie Hollands was good. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and also Blake Acres as well. But out of those three, who were you most impressed with?
I was extremely impressed with Hollands and Cowan. I thought Cowan really came into his own in that second quarter, especially. He took a few marks, mostly tackled Bolton a few times for holding the ball. He looks really comfortable at level and actually looks like a proper steal at pick 30. So Hollands looked great. He actually ran the most in the game.
Yep.
This is the guy played his first AFL game. 14.7 Ks. Him and Ed Curnow were at the top in the game. So distance covered, that's just enormous for a winger.
Yep.
Obviously, as the games go on, he'll get more comfortable, as where these debutant guys do when they're young. So it's just good now that we aren't throwing these young guys into the, just into the fire like we used to. We had to play Paddy Dow round one in 2018 or 2019 or whatever it was. Like really, there's not as much pressure on them.
Yeah.
Because they're a part of a system that's good enough. Well, we hope it's good enough. Based on tonight, it wasn't good enough at all. But onto Acres, it's not alarm bells, but it was a frustrating performance, I think. There was no link between the midfielders and the wingers tonight. I think that was the issue. It was just he really did struggle, and obviously the icing on the cake for his game was the drop with 7 seconds to go, which was, it's not always an easy get with, 7 seconds to go and the whole crowd's yelling at you and you're, going behind the ball. But yeah, he just really didn't have an impact going forward either. He did a few efforts defensively, which I think that's what he brings to the team. I think what he will bring to the team in, rounds to come. But yeah, he really struggled tonight.
And that's the thing with Acres. I'm actually surprised that he finished with 16 touches. And I think that was something that last year that we were really impressed by is the link with the defenders onto the wingers to get the ball fucking moving forward to the forwards. You get Mackay and Charlie Curnow up forward, waiting for the ball to come down there. Get it down there. Get it down there. Like, they're waiting for it to come. They're chipping it around Newman, Assad to the... Get it fucking moving.
20 less inside 50s for the same amount of scoring shots. If we cut that down, that deficit to 10, right? 10 less, we would have had more shots on goal. We would have won the game of football.
Yeah.
We would have won the game of football.
Exactly.
Like, our defense was what held them to 58. You win most games. If you hold a team to 58, we were just that bad with ball in hand. Don't get me started on our skills tonight. What is going on, man? I've been to trainings and we've been training extremely well. That's not just me being biased. I know every team is probably training well, but specifically the training sessions and the intensity, blokes hitting targets, blokes challenging each other to hit a target, go in ball, hit a kick inside, run past. I thought in the first kind of quarter we tried to do that a little bit, where you take a mark and you've got a runner running past and you use him.
Yeah.
I just feel like the rest of the game there was just none of that. Like there's a few times. How many marks did our defenders take where we need to be taking a mark? And Sardi's running past. I thought he was a little bit off tonight. Like he was good. He had 94% efficiency, but based on his impact, I don't think he was good enough.
Yeah.
I just thought, especially in that last half, I'm not having a go at him specifically, but there was not that penetrating kick he usually does.
Yeah.
Or takes on those inboard kicks that opens the whole ground up for us. So it's frustrating, but it was just like you said, it's get a flow going.
Yeah.
What's going on? We can't get it going for 4 quarters of a football game and we almost win.
Yeah.
You can see it as a positive, but it's also a massive negative.
And so I've got 2 questions off that after what you just said then so my first question is, with that link play, is that to do with Vossi changing something up where we try and go through the middle? And my other question is with more to do with how bad our skills were. What was the reason for that? Was it Richmond's pressure? Was it the ground quality? Was it just nervous? Was it us being nervous? Like 88,000 people at round 1. It's a big game to play. It's a big occasion. Answer that first question, but then also try and think about an answer for that next question, because I seriously don't know.
Yeah, so on your first question, it's really tough to put a figure on it, because it was 4 quarters. How are we not fixing that? How are we not fixing that? Is that a coaching issue? Is that a player issue? Do players need to be driving those types of that type of ball movement in a game? Because I just feel like we weren't doing it at all. And there's a time where you do chip around. You do chip around the offense and you slow them down. But when you've got a little bit of momentum, don't be flat-footed and chip around. Get the ball in.
Yeah.
Get the ball in. Get moving. I just thought, like I said before, it was just stagnant all around the ground. Apart from our backs, our forwards was where were they? Apart from Harry and Charlie. Even Charlie was quiet. I know he kicked 3, but which was great. Fantastic. He kicked 3. That's his job. But probably the other forwards, I thought, like we said, Jack Martin, or what's going on there? When's it going to end?
Was he playing? Genuinely? How many touches did he finished with? Mate, he finished with 6 touches. 6 touches.
Now look at another forward. Zach Fisher 7. Jack Silvani 5.
What is going on? Seriously,
that's 18 touches. That's the link play you're touching on.
Yep.
Those guys are the link up players up half forward, and they just weren't doing anything. I know obviously Fisher and Silvani kick goals, but 1 goal each, no other impact really on the game at all. I know Sauce went in the ruck, which is frustrating in itself. I'm kind of just sick of the whole thing as well, just for his body. But mate, but on the second question, what was the second question again? It was more on.
Yeah, it was a little bit more to do with our skills, and was it more to do with Richmond's pressure, or was it more to do with the ground quality? Was it more to do with the nerve-wracking of the round 1 occasion of 88,000 at the G watching you play football? What do you think it was?
Oh, I think it's just our skill was just really bad, and that's when you don't take risks, you almost actually turn over the ball more because it's weird, isn't it? It's a weird concept in football, because you think if you're playing it safe, like we were all night, 4 quarters. I don't care what anyone says, we're playing it safe all game. For chippy. There's going to be a time where they're going to cut it off, because Richard's pressure is ultimately pretty good most years. And that's what they base their game off. And that's how they win games of football. So, but yeah, skill-wise, back to the training track, because what the hell, man? That's pressure. It's the pressure on the coaches now too, to really just get them going for next week. Because if we're missing targets against Geelong, we're going to be made. They're going to put us in a blender. They are going to put us in a blender and spit us out, because they're the premiers. Yeah. It's the top notch. If we can't get up for that game, which I think we will, but we can't get up for that game, Pato, there's no 58 all. There's 58 to 104. It's we can't do that.
No.
But yeah, it's just frustrating. And yeah, obviously it's a bigger game, bigger occasion, but you just can't be blaming that. Most of these guys played last year. Akers played a semi-final against Collingwood last year for Freo. He can't be afraid of that. He's played enough games, I think.
No.
You get it for a few debutants, a few touches here and there, but I thought they were okay. It's just like, I don't know. It's just frustrating me, mate, because I don't know what your thoughts on it are, because it's just they're AFL footballers, Pato. Hit the targets.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's where I kind of see it, where Blake Acres and I think Tim Taranto was one of those players that handled the pressure really well, because he was one of those players that we were speaking about, being like, how will he handle being that marquee player for Richmond? How will he handle it? 32 touches later, best on ground. That's how you handle the pressure. That's how you handle the pressure of every single person watching. Every AFL fan will be watching this game. Round one, everyone's excited for the football to be back. Everyone's going to be watching it. They know that. They know that. So that's when you have to realize that you are now a professional footballer, that you need to now start to we all know that you play football. We all know that you are a proper footballer, and we all know that you're skillful enough to do the thing. You wouldn't have been drafted. You wouldn't be in this position right now if you weren't skillful enough to be a footballer. It's now the other side where it's mental, okay? And exactly what you said then, because, I mean, you know that I'm a tennis coach, but I don't think the fans would know that I'm a tennis coach. And I say to a lot of my students where, as you said, it's mental, but as you also said then about the risk, when you start to actually, I mean, I will use tennis analogy and then try and relate it back to football. When you start to try and lower your shots a little and try and get the ball back and play a little bit softer, you miss more. You miss more because you feel the pressure. So you're like, oh, okay. And then you start to get a little bit tight. And who would have known? Sardi didn't take any risk today.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it was because I think we also have to give credit where it's due, where I think Richmond did quite well with their game plan. They obviously they obviously converted well with their game plan, but also we just should have fucking done more. As you said, half time, what was the change? We were doing the exact same game plan. Like, we weren't doing we were still doing the same old shit where we chip.
Then bomb inside 50.
It's just so frustrating. And I hate to say it, this is when we will probably move on to our next point. I mean, we will touch on, obviously, the ruck conversation, but I want to touch on this right now because I think it leads into the ruck conversation. What have the players been doing all summer? Round 23, we lost to the arch rivals Collingwood by 1 point, okay? We were hurting. We assume they would be. We hope they would have been hurting. What have they been doing all summer? Collingwood, every single preseason last year, every single preseason session was focusing on that last 2 minutes. What do you do in that situation? What do you do in that game situation where you need to make the right decisions? Tom DeConning in the back pocket to switch the ball, showing the ball, and it's one moment like that. I don't want to shit on TDK because I think it was quite solid tonight.
Only in those moments, in that 5-minute period.
Moments. It's moments. It is 88,000. It's not a finals game, but it's a big game at the MCG against Richmond Football Club. Like, two biggest clubs in Victoria. It just frustrates the living fuck out of me, Duff. So it really does, and you can see, but it gets to me because, I mean, we are supporters and I know that they would be hurting so much more than what we are. But it's just kind of now to a point where, have they been doing any mental stuff over the summer? I mean, we don't know, but
there's no game management at all. I have not seen any last 2 years, maybe back end of maybe the Port Adelaide and Hawthorn games where we held on right. We did the right things.
Yeah.
You go, Melbourne game, we choked it. Yeah. Collingwood game, we choked it. Obviously there's unfortunate, Cozzy goals and stuff, but we still could have held on and still won. That shouldn't have happened.
No.
Those things can't happen. Lynch goal. If he kicks the goal, we should still be winning.
Yeah.
We should still be winning that game.
Yeah.
Because of the moments.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating me, man, because you go to the end of the year and it'll get to round 23 and you go, Carlton have to win this game. by, they have to win this game, win their last 3 out of the last 4, and then you go, fuck, imagine we just beat Richmond.
Yeah.
That game.
Yep.
I know it could go either way with a draw. Like a draw, I'll take 2 points because we were terrible, right? That's the way you look at it. But we were 6 points up with a minute to go, man. Like, how many times we choked it from there?
Yeah.
When's it going to end?
Yeah.
Like, when are we going to break that cycle?
Yeah.
We know we're good enough. Did you look at the ground, Pato, and go, look at the players we've got? Like, it's a waste of time if we can't click. And I know it will click.
Yeah.
And it clicked last year. We 100% agree with that. We support this team. We back them in every week. But it's going to come to a time where you've got to beat these teams in blockbusters.
Yeah. So when you say there about it will click, it will eventually click with these players. Is that coaching? Is that players getting experience in those big games? Is that chemistry within the players with these new players coming in, trying to get chemistry? What do you think it is?
Oh, it's honestly a mix because coaches have to be making sure they're coaching on game management.
Yeah.
We kind of held on all right in the last kind of 5-ish minutes, right? We still butchered it a few times because luckily Richmond weren't taking advantage of it. But it just gets to a time where we just can't do it for long enough.
Yeah.
Can't do it for long enough where when the game isn't like in games last year where we smashed an Adelaide or a North Melbourne, you don't need game management, right? Because you've got the game in yet because in the first, second, third quarter, you finished it. The game's done in the last quarter. Realistically, it's done. There might be 40, 50 points where you don't need to do the game management. But when you're in a close game, that's make or break for finals. And it broke our finals dream last year.
Yeah.
That broke our dream last year. And if we keep it up, it will do it again.
Yeah.
It will do it again. I'm not talking, I think we'll be fine. Obviously, we back him in. But if you can't do it in round 1, how am I expected to do that in the elimination final?
Yeah.
Obviously they're going to develop, like you said, it's time. They need experience, but how many times do we experience heartbreak before we fix the damn thing? Exactly. It'll happen, it'll click. It's frustrating right now, but it will get there. It's just, when is it going to happen? It's the unknown question.
Yeah. And like you kind of say there about how the experience, where the players didn't have the experience, but every club bringing new players. Every club bringing new players. Realistically, we brought in 4 draft picks and a recruit. That's not many players. That's not many players at all. So, it just gets to me, Duff. It just gets to me. It just gets to me. Yeah, so obviously now, after what we just touched on then about the whole game situation and game management in a pressure game, we'll now touch on the ruck conversation, which is once again another game management decision that they made prior to the game where they chose to go with TDK as that sole ruckman. Whether it was kind of more to do with Pitnet having a little bit of game management where they didn't want to put him in as that sole ruckman. Maybe maybe Vossi's analogy is actually going with Silvani as that second ruck. I don't know about it, but I think Pitnet probably was a little bit more game managed, but I know exactly how you feel, and I completely agree about Pitnet, and he is our number 1 ruckman. I am absolutely shocked that he wasn't out there tonight. I think he would have been vital, but also it wouldn't have decided the contest. Like it could have gone either way because TDK was actually quite good. Credit to him, he actually stood out. But more to do with the ruck conversation and that battle. Who do you think won it? I think it was pretty obvious who won it, but do you think TDK held his own?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people were saying, geez, you're going to get ragdolled by Nankervis, but I think it was pretty much far from that. I don't really think Nank had the impact where he won them, he was going to win them the game. I don't think he had that much of an impact. But I think for me, I was talking about it on the way home, and it's more about your hit outs to advantage. So when you are winning a hit out, where are you hitting it?
Yeah.
Are you hitting it to the advantage of your midfielders? Because I feel like, they're different because I feel like, Pito's percentage in hit-outs to advantage is so much higher. It was really high before he got injured last year. I think he was top of the league. Yeah. Actually, ahead of Gorn for hit-outs to advantage. Percentage for each hit-out. So out of all the hit-outs he did, how many were to advantage? And most of them, it was like 72%, which is nuts, right? So obviously TDK just couldn't give us first use.
Yeah.
In the midfield. There wouldn't have been many times where we had the ball in our hands first.
Yeah.
Like, we were getting destroyed. We somehow only lost the clearances by 4. We won the set of clearances. I'm not sure how.
I'm not sure how either.
And we only lost the stoppage clearances by 8. So I think for me, it's more with TDK is I just think he's more built for that second ruck.
Yeah.
Where he can go up forward. I just feel like he is just not there yet with number 1 ruck. I just don't think he might ever be. He might be, but you know what I mean? I just don't think on a consistent basis I can really back him into just tear it up. I mean, obviously development, what is he, 24, 23, 24. So, you know, how long are we going to wait, Pato? Because
exactly.
He's got the size. He's perfectly sized. He's good around the ground. I thought he was good inside tonight. Like, he was better than some of our smalls on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, it was getting ridiculous at some points. But yeah, like you said, Pitto, he'd be a huge in next week. I think we could really stretch Geelong out because I think that's their number one negative is the ruck.
Yeah.
Reece Stanley. Like, he's not a superstar by any stretch. So with Pitto, if he comes in and we can have 2 rucks going at Reece Stanley and maybe a Rattigalea, I think, you know, it could really change the game and obviously change our first use. Because when we get first use, how good are we? When we get going, we get clearances. When we get clearances, we have one-on-ones in the forward line. Yeah. You can't have Grimes jumping over the back of Harry, you know, 2v1s, third man up. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just it's tough. It's tough to call because I like Tommy and I like Pitto. So we just have to give it a few weeks, I reckon, to see how they really develop that role.
Yeah. So you're also touched on there. So obviously next week you expect Pitnet to be brought in. Do you see TDK making way? How do you see that forming out? Because I think TDK has to stay in, but what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he stays in. I think he was good enough to stay in tonight. It was just, it was like I said before, it was a really odd game. No one really took it by the scruff of the neck. Like, even Toretto had 32. He really didn't take it by the scruff of the neck. He kind of blazed away heaps like both teams did.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying he was the only one. It was pretty much our whole list blazing away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think TDK stays in for mine. And you have the duo. I think that worked at the start of the year last year. Put the pressure on the Geelong Bigs. Because I'm backing us in. We can beat them. We can definitely beat them. And we don't know how good they're going to go tomorrow night. So, yeah, both of them in, mate. What do you reckon?
I completely agree. I think they both have to play because it's more to do with how that will impact the opposition. So imagine today, TDK and Pitnet up against Nankervis and Miller. All right. So if I mean, it's kind of you're looking back in hindsight, me like, oh, this isn't the reason why we would have if this was to happen, it wouldn't have been guaranteed a win. All right. It's just more just like thinking back from it as supporters, how are we going to change so we can get the win next time? How are we going to change it so we can get a win moving forward? Okay. So also to touch on TDK, he's 23. Okay. He's been at it for 4 or 5 years. When is he going to start to take that next leap? Sean Darcy's done it. Raw Marshall's done it. They might be a little bit older, but they've done it. They've been around that 22, 23 age where a ruckman starts to learn his craft and start to go that next level. If Saints are throwing $1 million at TDK, take him. Take him. He's not worth $1 million. If he is of course not yet. But you can't look at potential. You can't look at potential for 5 years. I'm sorry, but you just can't. You might think of it differently, but yes, a ruckman his talent is so like exciting, but it's always potential with TDK. It really is. It really is. So, I mean, as I said, if you want to risk to throw, of course I want to keep TDK at the club. He's a future ruckman of the competition. So, of course I want to keep him at the club, but it's more to do with you don't want to overpay because we've done that in the past. Okay. So we'll obviously move on from the ruck contest. I mean, it's not really a shitting on TDK thing. I think his talent is there, and he actually did quite well tonight against, as you said, a premier ruckman in the competition. So we'll now move on to the best player. So I know there was probably there probably is a few. There's probably not too many options, but there's maybe a few options for other reasons. But who do you think was your best player tonight, Daffy boy?
Based on impact and changing the game, I think it was Lewis Young for mine. I think if he wasn't there, could you imagine how many goals they would have kicked?
Yeah.
Like it shows you how much he's developed in his time at Carlton, because you look at the start of last year when we picked him up, when he hadn't played a game yet, we're thinking, oh, he's a good backup defender behind Oscar McDonald.
Yes.
He was behind Oscar McDonald. Oscar McDonald's played at Williamstown this season.
Yeah.
And Lewis Young is dominating in round one.
Yeah.
So he just has the development of Lewis Young. Because obviously he has to play on Harry and Charlie at training. So he's got good opponents to play on. But yeah, he's just taking marks. I think look at the stats now. I think I just looked before. He had 20 touches, for God's sake. Like 20 touches down back. He had 14 kicks, 8 marks. And like I said before, he's turning those double fists in the hands. That's when you know the development of a young defender.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, he's a totally different defender because he's been a star since he started.
Yeah.
But you can see that natural progression. I think how old's Lewis Young? He's 24.
24.
So
prime.
You got him and Wiedering for the next decade. Really, you got them two for the next 4, 5, 6 years at their best.
Yeah.
I just think we've got that locked up. Yeah. We've got that locked up. And we've also got a little bit of depth with, Sam Dern in the twos, who I've heard has been good on the training track over the time. So, great game, Lewis, if you're watching, mate. Great game, and your development is just amazing, because it's a credit to you, because we picked him up for nothing, and we've got so much out of it. We've backed him in. Yeah. The coaches have backed him in, which is great. And he's also repaid that faith, of course, when we re-signed him for 3 years.
Yeah. And I think, as you said then, Lewis Young, I think he was the pick to do with SBS. So it's either 52 or 54. It was one of the two. It was a 52-54, which I think is a 4th rounder by memory. I'm not too sure. Mate, absolute nothing pick. And he's probably now, he's by far our best second defender behind Wiedering, but he's now starting to transition towards one of those, maybe the top 10 key defenders in the competition. Probably not yet, but he's moving towards that. And tonight would have helped him tremendously. So that's a great get with the BOG. I always want to try and go different. And, we spoke about it at the start of the episode, and I think it's kind of hard to go away with the stats. And, of course, George Hewitt was our leading disposal getter for Carlton. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. To me, he's our most valuable player. He finished with 71% efficiency, which you can't really criticize too much, because it was a little bit dewy. But he finished with 10 kicks, 18 handballs, 5 marks, 4 tackles. So I think he did quite solid. And I think if there's more players like Hewitt around him, where there's more players like him trying to go under or trying to do their role, I think we're going to try and win a lot more. I think we're going to win a lot more games. And I don't want to, I'm not right now, are you concerned?
No. Not yet. It's annoying because we should have won. Yeah. And we butchered the game for the entirety of the game. We were terrible.
Yeah.
Definitely not. We almost won the game when we were terrible.
Yes.
Last 2 years ago, we would have lost by 60, 70. Exactly. I'll lock that in. Exactly. So, just anyone watching, hold your horses. It's calm. Yeah. But if we're playing for that for 2-3 weeks, then it's alarm bells ringing.
Yeah. And Richmond are probably a top 8 side. So, yes, we didn't play by far our nowhere near our best football, but look what we did against it. Richmond obviously weren't on their A game either, but as you just said, if it was 2 or 3 years ago, would have gotten slaughtered by 80 points. So I think that's the improvement. You can kind of see a little bit of improvement, a little. I think game plan. Players obviously you can't. It's round one. It's round one. It really is hard because you can't really expect these players to go out. Yeah, they haven't played in front of a big crowd like that since round 23 last year. It might take them a few weeks to get back into it, but I think it's great to see them back. I mean, so pleased to get the Blue Baggers back. And so glad to get footy back. But Dave Boy, is there anything else you want to touch on?
Oh, they make me stress, those boys. Oh, the hearts. It's working. It's definitely tested the heart, but we love that about the footy, and we'll be raring to go next Thursday night because it's a must win for me. Win the game. No excuses.
Yeah. Absolutely spot on. And a bold call. Absolutely love it. So, as you said, then AFL is by far the best game in the world. We've missed it so much, us as Carlton supporters, but also just the game in general. It's by far the best game in the world. And obviously next week we're playing against the Geelong Cats, the ex-premiers. So obviously it's a big test. But as you said, then as we said throughout the episode, I just think with having that draw, it's not a loss, it's not a win. We kind of just restart. We kind of restart that. Now we kind of just have to, not a reality check, but could just kind of move on now to where we now need to be on our A game because we're now playing against the premiers. So I'm absolutely excited. Davey Boy, absolute pleasure being on you. Being on the episode tonight. Obviously straight after the game, but and we'll catch you guys throughout the week with the preview. But as always, Daffy Boy and the Blues fans, up the Baggers.